Welcome into another edition of Mixing a Water Monday. Joining us today is former Gamecock offensive lineman Garrett Anderson. And Garrett, it's a good time to have you on to talk about the offense. Where do you want to start with it? I mean, it's obviously been an area that a lot of people have wanted to discuss going back to even last season. We've seen some
Yep.
good at times. The consistency is the issue from week to week. And
Yep.
like we saw a couple weeks ago against Missouri, it seemed like that was what we saw again down in Gainesville.
Yeah. I think if you want to really delve into it, I think a lot of people don't think about it this way, but we are still playing with Wolford's O lineman, and I know that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but Wolford is a phenomenal inside zone, outside zone, power counter kind of guy. He is a run the ball down the middle kind of guy, and if you look at the way he recruited guys over the years during the Muschamp era and all that kind of stuff, he recruited guys who were good at mauling through people. Now, if you watch that with the perspective of these are not pass pro guys, I'm not saying that they can't. I'm saying that you didn't get them to do that. You trained them for 4 or 5 years to be maulers. And it's funny because you watch that, and I know that's where Marshall's coming from, whenever he publicly goes to the sideline until Satterfield to run the ball. It's that you're watching that in practice. You're watching these guys excel and be phenomenal inside zone power counter, and then we have them pass pro for 7 seconds. And I think it was very funny. So I coach over AC Floor. Sean Elliott's kids on the team, see Sean every week. And I, as a guy who loves that man as a person, I thought it was really funny how all he did to completely unravel our O-line was just run basic stunts. He knew our O-line, and he's a line coach in and of himself. He realized that that's where we are weak at. And it's funny, if you watch throughout the season, where we falter on the O-line is not being bigger or stronger. We have that in spades. It's whenever anyone gets shifty, anyone does any kind of stunt where our linemen have to move laterally quickly, that's just not what our guys are good at. And you got to use the tools in your toolbox. And I love watching us run the ball because we're so good at it. It's what those guys are built for. And then we have them protect for 7 seconds for 7 plays in a row. And everyone goes, O-line sucks. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you're putting them in a position to fail. Of course they look bad. Yeah, Missouri did it a little bit. For what it's worth, from a guy who lost by 50 at the swamp, that environment sucks. That environment's loud. And that I don't care how bad Florida is. They still have athletes from Florida. Those guys are dudes, and they're strong, and they're fast, and they're big. That's not a place to go really try to sling the ball. You need to run the ball, and think and dine your way all the way down the field. Because, I mean, what was that guy, 415 pounds?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I faced Terrence Cody at 400. He was strong. He was big. You're not going to block him for forever.
So now you're 6-3, or 6-4, excuse me. You got 2 regular season games to go, difficult ones at that. And I can only imagine what this fan base is going to be like over the next couple weeks if they continue to lose these 2 games after starting the year off. What was it, 5-2? So I bring all that up because, again, this team had a good start, and I know some people are going to look at the schedule and be like, all right, well, this team wasn't that good. That team wasn't that good. But again, like I said, from an offensive standpoint, we could talk about the defense too, but from an offensive standpoint, at times they have done good things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think has just been if I know it's probably the $1 million question, and if you had the answer, I'm sure Beamer would say, all right, yeah, give me that. Because I'm sure he's trying to figure that out. I'm sure Marcus Satterfield is trying to figure that out. Why don't you think this offense has been able to take that next step week to week?
I've said this a couple of times. So I coached in the college level for a couple of years, and it does get very frustrating because you watch guys getting paid millions of dollars, and you have to at least have the initial guys of they've got to be the best at what they do. They've got to be. But I do feel like there's a couple moments where these are still just grown men with data trying to get it figured out. I think there's a couple spots where you don't get paid millions of dollars a year without being good at one thing. And I think there's certain moments where, like, heck, if I am a phenomenal inside zone run coach, and then I get stuck in a situation like, I'm coaching O-line for Mike Leach, and he wants us to have 5-foot splits. I don't know what the heck that is. I've never coached that. I don't know what that is. I'm going to always gravitate back to what got me under his staff in the first place. And I feel like we might have a couple guys that best example is Duke Mayo Bowl. I thought about that this morning. We did things we have not done all season in that Mayo Bowl that were very, very, very successful. And I think that was a lot of throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. And I think that we had a lot of success there. But I feel like all those things we did were things that our offensive staff are not comfortable doing. And so when you've got to develop a game plan every week against really, really talented opponents, because that's the SEC, you're going to go back to what you're comfortable with, what got you success in the first place. But if we don't have the guys to do what you're trying to get done, we're going to continue to falter. I still am very intrigued by this question, and I have no answer to it. But whenever we got Rattler, very famous question was, are we going to throw the ball more with Spencer Rattler on the team? And Satterfield said, we didn't bring him here to hand the ball off. That has concerned me every single time Carolina steps on the field. Going back to what I said, we've got O-linemen that are great at running. We have potentially one of the most electrical running backs in SEC. Bell is, and I don't hate how we're using him, but if you want to talk about a crack slot receiver / tight end H-back where you just put him on a seam or, as an RPO route to where you as a safety and an outside linebacker have to respect that every time, because if you try to one-on-one Jaheim Bell and he just mosses you and goes for a touchdown, you're screwed. There's all kinds of options you could do there with him. So I like what we're doing there. But, yeah, I mean, you've got all those guys, all those tools that are great at – I mean, that's what we did during Muschamp era with Wolford. We ran for 6 yards every single time. And it was boring, but it worked. And I'm concerned that we're sitting there trying to make Rattler look good, trying to stick to what we know as an offensive coaching staff, but it's not working. And when you panic, you go back to what you know. But we've got to do stuff that we aren't comfortable with to just do something to give a semblance of offense to, at the very least, respect for the seniors on this team.
Again, 2 tough matchups these next 2 weeks. And even though Tennessee has their flaws defensively, one of the worst pass defenses in the country, they're still one of the better teams in the country. And then, of course, look, I know there's going to be some people after the loss against Notre Dame that are going to be thinking, all right, that Clemson game's more winnable. Well, you also got to realize they still have a very good defense, number one. Number two, they haven't played South Carolina at Memorial Stadium since 2018. So that stadium is probably going to be rocking. They've been waiting to play South Carolina because of that COVID year, 2020. So I bring all that up. Because I've mentioned this before. I think you agreed with me. With 2 regular season games to go, I know there's a lot of people in the fan base that want to see a change at offensive coordinator. And I understand that, right? And I've talked about the last couple of weeks that I just don't think it would happen until the end of the regular season. Yeah. Number one, do you agree with that statement? And regardless if you agree with it or not. Number two, what can you do differently at OC, even if Satterfield is there?
To start with this, I had this conversation a lot this weekend. I still lean into the camp of what do you have to lose? Tennessee's fighting for everything right now. Tennessee's going to give us more than they might have given Alabama because they're pushing for a playoff spot. They're not going to take us lightly at all. Clemson's had a frustrating year. Clemson wants to keep us in our place, and I don't care how much you watch games of ACC football. That is a very talented team. These last 2 games are going to be difficult. And I go into the camp of kind of the whole Saban thing at Bama. It's not how you want to lose. It's not that you want to lose. It's how you want to lose. If we play 2 games where our teams are inspired, heck, what Cadillac's doing at Auburn. I don't care if you're winning or losing. If you're excited and you guys are out there playing their hearts out, that's what we want. And that's what we've seen under the Beamer era. If it were me, and I heard this too, I heard someone say that conversation's been had in the coaching staff and no one wants to call plays. That is disheartening, but it could be a lie. I mean, Lord knows what's actually true. But if it were me, I would try something in the camp of what do you got to lose? I would treat it like the Duke Mayo Bowl of I'd let the kids call plays. What do you have to lose? If you got Joyner and Rattler and Lloyd just out there saying, hey, I like this, this, and this. Heck, we do that at AC Floor sometime. And the reason why is not because we don't know what to do, so we're asking the kids. It's because at a certain point, they're having experiences on the field. Same reason that Lloyd told him to run the ball. He's watching that O-line maul that defensive line. We're going to get 4 yards of play regardless. Run the ball. I would try something different because, and I think back to that promotion. I don't know how you even describe it. The video that Carolina did, where Shane walked the guys all the way to the top of the stands, talking about those guys who work day in and day out. They afford tickets to be in that stadium. Can you imagine all that to go into that stand and watch us run the exact same 14 plays that don't work all season long? I'd be pissed. I would change it up just for those people, just for the people that bleed garnet and black, that this is their everything. I would switch it up for them just to show that you are as passionate as they are.
Talked a lot about the offense, and rightfully so. I said this the other day, though, during the game. The defense, you can't let them off the hook this week. And I know they've had a couple bad games this year, but especially the other night. And they did. I'll give them credit that they were able to figure things out in the second half. Now, did Florida call the dogs off? I mean, regardless, okay? At least they fought. But for the majority of the game, and to allow almost 400 yards rushing, it was disappointing. It was disappointing to see them go first drive of the game, 14 plays on you, 3 for 3 on third downs. And then they scored the first 3 possessions of the game. So I bring all of that up because defensively, they're banged up right now. If you're a defense, you don't know what the heck you're going to get from this offense each week. You don't know if it's going to be, okay, 3 and out. We have to be on the field forever. But you got to be able to help yourself out. I don't know if there's anything in particular that you noticed from the defense or if that kind of sums it all up with what we saw the other day.
If I had to take a guess, if I was a defensive tackle and I'm playing 50 plays, 60 plays before the half, I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of watching our offense be out there 3 and out and be right back on the field. I watched that when I was in Carolina. We had some games and some teams where we sucked on offense. And I had numerous D tackles tell me to my face, hey, get it together, do your job, because it's exhausting. And they weren't trying to be the turds or anything. It was that they were playing a lot of downs before the half, and that wears you down and that beats you down. And I watched it too. I just rewatched this morning too, and I don't think it's effort. And that's what especially from a coaching perspective, I don't think they don't care. I don't think they're not trying. But what do you do as a linebacker going against, Richardson and all those talented guys on that team, knowing that you're going to have to get hit in the face 40 times before halftime? I mean, that's exhausting. That's a lot that's a large load to carry. So I think especially from an offensive coach's perspective, you got to keep the defense off the field. You got to keep them engaged. You got to let them be out there and let them shine when you need them to. I don't think the calls are wrong. I really tried to analyze it this morning. I don't think they're doing anything incorrectly, and I don't think the kids are being indifferent. I think you're just putting them in a position to lose from an offensive perspective.
Last 2 games of the year, regular season, already have your bowl ticket punched.
Yep.
I know that, and you get it. Fans want to see wins. That's how they're going to judge this team. But what do you want to see these next 2 weeks outside of the obvious, which is wins? I mean, if they're able to beat Clemson, I can only imagine that would make things feel a hell of a lot better, especially over the next 2-3 weeks, depending on what bowl game you're playing in. But outside of the obvious, what do you just want to see from this team?
Something different. I'm saying that from a fan's perspective. I still love this team. I can't help but love this team, and you got to do something different. You got to show that there's some fight, that you're not okay with just existing. I'd love to see some change. I don't care if we win or lose. I really don't. That sounds real stupid because I know a lot of people reduce things to wins and losses because the season's based off wins and losses. If we scare the crap out of Tennessee and we almost beat Clemson, I'm a very happy man. I want Clemson to not think that last game of the season is an auto W. And that's been that way for a very, very long time. I would love. I mean, my freshman year we won one at Clemson. It's a good stadium, but it's not better than Florida, not better than Georgia. But from the coaching side, do something different. Put Joyner at quarterback and just let it run. Put Bell at tight end, let it run. Keep the defense off the field. I'd try something different. And from the player side of things, man, just that fight. I'm trying to think of certain games that I played in particular where we knew we were going to lose. And Florida in 08 was kind of one of those. But hey, we played LSU. I mean, hell, I played the national championship team every year. But LSU sophomore year, highly projected to just beat the crap out of us. And it was a game until that stupid toss the ball over the kicker touchdown. That was annoying as hell. But the games where you fight, where you're like, oh, I want to scare these guys. I don't want them to think this is another W. I think those would be good. I don't want us to walk into the bowl game thinking that, hey, we got to a bowl game. That's a crappy way to end a season like we've had. But yeah, we just need to see some fight on all aspects of the game.
Well, Garrett Anderson, we appreciate it, and best of luck to AC Floor. Markel.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Had a phenomenal game, 2,000 yards, Mr. 2K.
You look like a good coach when you keep on going to programs that are head to state. Makes you look like a good coach. So. And an O-line that's all about 300 pounds. Great O-line coach.
See, they're going to appreciate that you gave him the shout-out. No disrespect to Townsend. I remember just covering him when I was still at Watch Fox. Fun running back, but it all starts up front, and I'm sure he would say the same.
That's a special kid. For those who are watching who have not watched some highlights, you want to watch a kid break 8 tackles in a play? That dude. Something else.
Love it. Well, Garrett, appreciate it. Good luck this weekend, and we will have GC Live talking Tuesday nights tomorrow night.
Yes, sir.